Hello and welcome to another History Online free tutorial. And today we're going to be looking at health in Britain and we're looking at treatments in the medieval time. So join us for a lesson as we look at particularly how to do the source question. So thank you for joining us for this lesson. Now, this is going to be a bit of an interactive lesson. You can choose to do activities as we revise your treatments of the medieval era and also as we look at how to complete a source answer successfully. Firstly, we're going to start with a bit of a quiz to help revise your knowledge of medieval treatments before moving on to our source skills. So now, over to the quiz. So here we are with the quiz, 10 questions to test your knowledge on medieval treatments. If you need to revise your knowledge, just have a look at that QR code there, scan that and take you to some Quizlet cards to help revise your knowledge. Perhaps, if you like, you could be looking at the Quizlet cards and trying to answer questions. Maybe a useful active way of revising to read through and try and find the answers to these questions, all of which are useful questions for you to know about the essentials of medieval treatments. So have a look at those 10 questions. You can pause it and give it a go, and then we will go through the answers in a moment. Right, so here are the answers then. So we are looking at question number 1. Who was the father of medicine? And that famously is Hippocrates. So you can often be asked about ancient people and how they have impacted the medieval treatments. So Hippocrates and Galen will be your two people to be aware of, the ancient Greeks and Romans and how they impacted that time. And of course, the Christian church liked their ideas, as we'll come to in a bit. Name a famous medieval book full of cures and herbal remedies. So something like Bold's Leech Book is a good idea. A leech book actually means a sort of leech means a treatment at that time. So it's a book of treatments, and it might give you an idea of why leeches are, called leeches. Another simple thing, question 3, list 3 things you need to cure an eye infection. So garlic, onion, and a brass cup. These are, 3 easy things to remember. Easy, particularly garlic and onion, everyday items that could kill bacteria. Obviously, they didn't know about bacteria, but we know that it can kill them. So list the 4 humours. We've got phlegm, blood, yellow bar, and black bar as the 4 major humours, coming from Hippocrates and Galen's theory of 4 humours, of course, which was widely accepted at that time. Name a theory that bad smells cause disease. So another non-spiritual idea, another important one to know is miasma, particularly during the Black Death, trying to sort of clear up all the bad smells, curing people with nice smelling potions. The Black Death did not have the beaks full of flower petals. That was the Great Plague. Do not get confused by that. So name the first university set up by the Christian Church that made medicine a focus. So Padua is a good university to know of, and that sort of in the 900s into 1000s. And so the Christian Church is educating people to be doctors on sort of Galen and Hippocrates ideas mainly. Another good university we're aware of is Montpellier, the first one to start doing dissections to show people the anatomy of the body, useful for your surgery knowledge. That's in the 1300s. So number 7, the church accepted the idea of Galen because he said the human body was perfect. Like in the Bible, obviously, God created humanity in his own image. So that supports the Bible. So the Christian church liked Galen's ideas. But one person criticized Galen, was put in prison for heresy, and that's Roger Bacon. So that gives you an idea of something negative, perhaps, about the Christian church, that they didn't let people question Galen, even though he might have made mistakes. Then the last few questions, really important about religion, particularly the Arab medicine and Islam and how that helped with medicine. A few years ago, there was a question about Arab medicine. It was an 8-marker. And, not many people had maybe prepared as well as they should. And there was lots of blank answers. So know a bit about Arab medicine, useful for your religion questions and useful for if there's an Arab question, of course. So who wrote the Canon of Medicine? Well, Avicenna. And the Canon of Medicine obviously was a book translated and sent over to England and Britain, so it impacted their medicine. What do Muslims believe about the cures? So books, the cure, they believe the Quran had all the cures in it, or suggested all the cures within it, and particularly that God had made all the cures. And how does religion help people stay clean in medieval times? So washing helps them not get infected. Do a public health thing as well, perhaps. Washing before prayer. you've got wudu for Muslim people, and obviously monks in the Christian world would have washed themselves as well. Yes, hopefully that quiz went well for you. So next we'll move on to some grade 9 source skills. Okay, so here is our source question. So how useful is source data historian studying the treatment used in medieval Britain? So we've got our source here, got our picture source, we've got our provenance beneath it, but you might be wondering, what do you need to do to achieve a grade 9? What are the skills you need to show? And it's a little bit complicated with the source question, particularly for AQA. You've got to show a lot of different skills. So here we go then. Have a little think yourself if you like. Take this as a little activity, a chance to sort of list a few ideas down. What do you think would make a good grade 9 answer? So here's what I think. So you need to be thinking about giving a correct suggestion from the source, firstly. So you've got to look at that source and suggest something. Okay, there he is looking at something. Is there an illness, particular treatment he is thinking about? What suggestion can you make here? You need to explain with knowledge why the suggestion is useful or not useful. So you made a suggestion, then support it with your knowledge, and you do that in peel paragraphs. Okay, point, evidence, explain. So that explain bit, put the knowledge in there and explain. Then the link should be an evaluation. Okay, if you said partly, it should be a bit of a weakness. If you said partly useful, I mean, it should be a bit of a weakness. If you think it's mostly useful, it should be an extra strength of the source. Okay, so again, we took that comes into the explain with a wider link there in that second point. So trying to explain to a greater extent, and that wider link becomes your evaluation. You should assess the provenance of the source as well in its own paragraph for top band answers, and obviously give a clear conclusion. So if you're interested in getting 5 to 6 marks, which would be good for a grade 7, maybe grade 8, if you're consistently getting those marks, you will need to explain 2 ideas. And they could both be content ideas to get 5 or 6 marks. If you want to get to the provenance, will get you to the top band. So explain one content and one provenance idea will get you to the top band answer. So if you can't see a provenance idea, try and explain 2 content ideas. If you can see a good provenance idea, explain it along with the content idea, and it will help you get to those top answers. Okay, so you're in the exam, you probably want to do a bit of planning. You've got the exam paper in front of you, you've got the source. So start then thinking about how is it useful? The question is treatments used in this time. So what's it telling me about treatments? So content that's useful, make a suggestion about the content, support with some knowledge. Make a second suggestion about the content, support with knowledge, and list it around the source and annotate around the source just for a minute or so in the exam. Have a little practice that now. Jot down some ideas. What do you think you can suggest is useful, and what knowledge supports this? Take a pause and have a go for that. Have a think for a moment. So here's my ideas then. So the doctor is using a urine sample. Okay, looking at the urine sample, you should know that, quite a famous sort of picture or idea. So the doctor, and then knowledge support this, doctors use urine samples to work out which of the 4 humours was out of balance. They'd have a urine chart full of colours they could look at, and this would lead them to know what to do in terms of treating the 4 humours. Maybe would they need to bleed the patient? And if they're a barber surgeon, obviously they could go and then get their phlegm and their bleeding cup and measure the amount of bleeding they're going to do. The second thing, we can see the doctor is a monk. He's got his hair shaved at the top around the crown. And this tells us religion is important. The Christian church promoted the ideas of people like Hippocrates and Galen said the human body was perfect, like the Bible said humans are created in God's image. So this suggests, obviously, that Galen and Hippocrates' ideas are being used here, because that's what the Christian church believed in. So you could also talk about how it's a Hippocratic examination of the patient. He's examining the patient like a doctor should. You've got some ideas there, and then you can go from there and answer the question. So we'd have a nice writing frame. Source A is partly or very useful to historians studying medieval treatment because, for example, the content shows this is useful because, and we might have a furthermore or however at the end. Let's give that a go. You can work through this with me if you like. So I'll put out the first sentence and you can pause and go through if you want to do your own idea. Remember, when you're answering these questions, my argument might be different to yours, but a different argument is fine It's just the quality of the argument that gets you the grades. So have a go at your starting sentence. Choose, is it partly or very useful about treatments? And give a reason why. Okay, the reason why is really important to set up your argument. Try not to have it because it's, from 1250. That's evidence. Try to give suggestion about why it's useful about treatments. And we're going to focus on the content only in this paragraph. Okay, so give it a go. Here's my idea. So, source A is very useful to historians studying medieval treatments because it suggests treatments advanced due to ancient ideas. So that's one of the suggestions we made, ancient ideas. Then give some evidence. So now we want to say, for example, the source shows, we want to give some evidence from the source. Keep it just one sentence. Okay, give it a go. So here's my idea. For example, the content shows Razi is looking at a urine sample. Very short, very simple. I want to keep the source work to a minimum, and I want to spend my time doing the knowledge to explain this, not describing the source. If I spend my time describing the source, I'm going to get about 4 marks if I'm lucky. Okay, I need to explain with my knowledge why this is useful. This is useful about medieval treatments because, and now I want to explain about the urine sample, what that means about medieval treatments with my knowledge and why this is useful. So 2 sentences, maybe 3, explaining. So pause, you can have a think about the knowledge you'd use, how you might explain it, or give this a go. Right, so here's my idea. So this is useful about medieval treatments because at the time doctors used the ancient ideas of Galen and Hippocrates. These ideas improved treatments as their theory of four humors was more scientific than superstitious or religious ideas. They would examine the things like urine to work out which humor was out of balance, and this suggested a treatment. Okay, so then we could reference obviously bleeding and things like that if we wanted to. Okay, so it's a couple of sentences explaining full of knowledge, and I've explained how the source is useful about a treatment. Okay, I can then say, because I've said it's very useful, I can then give another strength. Okay, if I'd said it's not very useful, I'd be giving a weakness, right? So have a go if you like. Finish off your answer. Okay, here's mine. So furthermore, it is very useful. It also shows a person as a monk. It shows that the Christian church dominated treatments of this time. They promoted the ideas of Galen as they agreed that the human body was perfect as it was made by God. I've actually given 2 fairly good content explanations there. I might expect to get 5 or 6 marks for that. Possibly if I developed a little bit more about the Hippocratic method and explained about Hippocrates and the examining of the patient, I might expect to get 6 marks, definitely. Okay, but I'm aiming for 8 marks. So I'm going to actually do a provenance paragraph as well. So I'm going to plan around the provenance. I'm going to think about my 5 W's. So why was it made? What's the purpose of the source? What is the source? When was it made? Where was it made? Who was it made by? I'm going to try and find one thing out of all that I think is useful or not useful about the source so I can evaluate its usefulness. Okay, so it says it's a picture of the Arab Dr. Razi's in a book by an Italian Dr. Gerardo Cremona from about 1250 AD. Cremona translated numerous works by Arab scholars. So I suppose there's not a lot there, but I should know something about Razi's because I should have revised my Arab medicine. I should know Italy and the Italians, and particularly around 1250, there's been the Crusades going on. So that should give me some ideas, and I should be aware of some of the achievements affected on Western doctors by getting in contact with Arab doctors. I should know some of that. So I can now plan my ideas. And I've planned my ideas as this. Okay. So who is Gerardo Cremona 1250? So it's time most doctors were taught by the Christian church the ideas of Galen and Hippocrates. So I've used the time and the fact he's an Italian, is a Christian, therefore he should be knowing Galen and Hippocrates around this time. Okay, I've also looked at another thing. So why? Translated from Arab scholars when 1250. And I'm thinking, okay, that's probably Crusades time. They've been out on Crusades and they've taken ideas from Arab doctors. And, you might know that they're bringing back lots of texts with them, like the canon of medicine, translating them and expanding knowledge. You should also know Arab doctors had much more access to Galen and Hippocrates books. Places like Alexandria, big libraries were out there in the Arab world, and in North Africa, much more access to those resources than the Europeans, perhaps. So I can use all that to then form my argument. So now I'm going to write maybe a slightly shorter paragraph, about the provenance and decide how useful it is again, my opening sentence, give a reason. I'm going to say, for example, the provenance is, and say what the provenance is. I'm going to say this is useful or not useful because, and I'll have a furthermore or however, as I did earlier. Okay, so again, you're welcome to pause as we go through. I'm just going to talk you through an answer if you want to just be talked through an answer. Okay, so again, pause it and give your opening argument. How useful do you think this provenance is and why? All right, so here's my idea then. So source A is very useful to historians studying medieval treatment because it's from the time doctors learned about the ideas from Arab doctors. So they're reliant on these Arab doctors. So I'm going to, for example, then I need to give some provenance evidence. So again, you can pause and give some provenance evidence. For example, it's from Gerard of Cremona in 1250, and Gerard liked to use the ideas of Arab doctors. Very simple. I don't want to use knowledge here because that spoils my explanation. So I've just literally picked a little bit out of the provenance. There's no explanation yet. This is useful about the time, treatments at this time because, and then I can explain with some knowledge. Okay, so if you're playing along, give it a go. Otherwise, here is what I've written. This is useful about treatments of time because many European doctors learnt from ideas from Arab doctors due to the Crusades that took place this time. The Arab doctors had access to many of the Galen and Hippocrates books. Furthermore, would have affected ideas in Britain as the work of Arab doctors like Razi's would have arrived in Britain due to the translation of the Compendium of Medicine being available in Britain. So Arab doctors have affected our treatments, I could conclude if I wanted to. So it's not asking me what treatments we use per se. It's asking me maybe about what's being used. So I could take some license to say, well, what's being used is Arab treatments, okay, and Galen Hippocrates ideas from there. So, hopefully you got on quite well with that and you managed to get a good answer. If not, hopefully you've seen how to do a nice answer. Well, I hope you found today's video useful on health in Britain and source skills. Obviously, particularly useful for AQA, but obviously, if you're doing a different exam board with source skills, it will be very useful for you as well. So, do look out for more videos. There'll be more along soon. Right, bye bye for now.